Hi, everyone. Welcome to Conversations and Plugs. My name is Cliff. And yeah, we are here again. Waggle.
Hi, everyone. My name is Wago, and this episode is very interesting because we're switching things up a little bit. We're going to take a look back at what essentially was our season 1. It was our 7 episodes,
Yeah.
a diverse group of guests
Yeah.
across over 4 sectors.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And it's important, I think, we do some sort of reflection from our 7 guests and also just look at what we saw across those episodes.
What
and
we learned.
What we learned.
I learned so much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For me too. And that's why we're here today. And so, yeah, we can get started. And some of the things that we did was just look at all the episodes and just probably pick out a couple of themes that we thought were interesting. So you guys as a community, please, on whatever comments, whether it's on our community pages, you can tell us what you saw. This is from our lens and purely ours. So we are the guests today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and even to start off, I think one of the things I put up was, so we need to name our community because I've realized, and please subscribe. Yeah, it helps grow our community and helps us continue to bring this content. So I put a poll in our community page. So please go there, look at the poll. We were wondering what to call our community.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have our favorite.
What are your options?
I think it was Plug Nation.
Plug Nation.
And CNP, what? CNP something.
My favorite is Plug Nation.
Yeah, I think for all of us, it's Plug Nation. That's why we can't even remember the other one.
Yeah, because I think the essence of a lot of feedback that I'm getting from the episodes, it's that they're essentially, this is a little knowledge transfer exercise.
Yeah.
It feels like African stories were told to us, and they changed our lives through generations being told the story of our history. And I feel like this is what the entrepreneurs that are on this podcast are doing for me. They're showing me the light.
Yeah.
I used to think I was not made for entrepreneurship, but I do think that everybody has their own inner entrepreneur because it's all about finding a problem and solving it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that you say you did not think you were an entrepreneur, and probably I think also going through the past 7 episodes, you realize that for me, I've always believed you give meaning to something, right? And you bring it to life. And I think all of us have some sort of entrepreneurship streak. But I think some of our guests were very quick to remind us how glorified that thing can be and how much of a pedestal it's put. And you're all just people of the same community just trying to figure it out. None of us have the answers. So lots to reflect on, especially when it comes to season 1.
Yeah.
Or actually, you don't want to call it season 1. I think it's just
the last 7 episodes.
The last 7 episodes, because we have more coming, and can't wait to see how that goes. And we've grown. I don't think I'm the same person. Remember when we walked in, and big up to Summer Box as well for Doris and Dushi and everyone else in terms of just guiding us in terms of how to do this. But I remember walking in and we were so nitpicky. Hey, what background? Where do we sit?
Yes.
And
are you sure you can hear us? Yeah. Have you pressed record?
Absolutely. So that was pretty cool. And I think, do you remember what they told us? Be authentic.
Be authentic.
Yeah, just be you.
Just flow.
Just flow. And that has been, I think, that what has been carrying us all along. So that's been cool.
I actually want us to take it back. Because you said when we walked in, and as I was reflecting on this, I do feel like this is a bit of an entrepreneurial journey. I found you along the way. I remember the first time you told me about what you were thinking of doing.
Yeah.
I just felt like there was an instant connection.
Yeah.
But it's based off our desire for a better Africa.
Correct. Yes.
I remember I texted you earlier and I was saying sometimes I have felt my vision for Africa has been lonely because I'm not sure other people feel the same way I do.
Yeah.
But what has come forth is that there are so many who are looking forward to a better Africa and they're building towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the heart of it is just finding your kindred, I think, and your community. Because I remember also and big up to everyone, because sometimes what happens is you might have an idea, and even just looking at the themes for all the guys who've been here is they're just in there doing stuff. Just start. And that's usually the biggest thing. And it's so funny because I think took one of our community people, Grace was just like, Cliff, this is an amazing idea. And Grace is just like, so this is what we're going to do, Cliff. And we got moving. So big up Grace for lighting a fire and then just taking those initial steps. And then you know what happens is when you take a step, what happens?
Another step shows up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a thing that I think within the people in our circles I've been hearing say is like, just step in, and then what happens? God will provide angels, helpers, sponsors. And I don't mean literal sponsors, but just people who will put your names in rooms and places as well.
Yeah.
So that's been pretty exciting with Conversations and Plugs.
The vision started in the vision in session. Cliff's Jack Ma moment was
Jack Ma moment.
His visioning moment was in his dining room. You baked your Joy, his partner, baked and cooked and gathered us all together.
Yeah.
And you shared your vision.
Absolutely. And I and sometimes I think the thing that stands out most usually for now is you can't go anywhere alone.
No.
And yes, you've got to choose the right partners. You've got to choose the right people. And so I called people around me who we sort of have common things that we talk about.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, guys, brought them for breakfast in the kitchen. And I was like, guys, I have this idea. And if I don't do it, I just feel like, I will have done myself an injustice, because we talk about all these things and guys are like, Cliff, just go and talk about the same things you talk about to other people on a bigger scale. And I was like, okay, let's try this. And so we visioned in the kitchen, and Conversations and Plugs was born. And everyone brought their best selves to the table, all the way from, say, whoever does creative, production. Everyone brought their best selves in terms of, and which was beautiful to see, because everyone who brings this podcast to life has something unique to offer. But I don't think we would have done what we've done with a few episodes if everyone wasn't carrying something.
Yeah.
And if everyone wasn't bought into the vision, I mean, all the way to the website, everyone just brought something. And sometimes it goes to show it's not just money, but also what you have to offer, and you can actually exchange value. And so that for me has been the biggest lesson also, just doing this podcast too. So I don't know what your experience has been, Wangu.
It has been, I don't think I will be the same person again.
Yeah.
I definitely envision myself. My vision in sessions of my life have completely been transformed, because I'm now very alert at what kind of problems are around me.
Yes.
And how can I be a solution to these problems. Something that's very clear for me is that Africa, everyone keeps talking about the youth bulge, and it's clear. We don't have enough industry. The size of industry is not big enough to absorb the workforce that's coming in. And the only solution for us is innovative industry. It's entrepreneurs who are going in and starting on a dream and then employing 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Across several businesses.
Correct.
Yeah.
And this was our little contribution to this dialogue and this narrative, because I think you and I talk about this all the time in terms of, I think when you leave Kenya, go to another country, cross to the west, go down south, you realize Africa is huge, right? And you realize we have a lot of commonality, but also a lot of different things, especially when it comes to policy and things like that. But businesses are businesses.
Yep.
But you realize how much the barriers and how, because we are kept apart, kind of reduces our potential. I mean, your market goes up exponentially once you're opened up to Ethiopia, once you're opened up to Tanzania. Extremely, and just makes you wonder if you had access to those markets, not just for exploitation, but just to exchange ideas and just grow our economies, exchange resources. And I feel it's a big injustice. And this podcast was going to be one of those where we looked at, and especially I remember during Kevin's episode when he talked about find things that move society forward.
Mm-hmm.
We feel this will move the needle a little.
Yes.
But we are throwing our rings in the hat to just take part in those conversations.
This is a real arena.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And it's been Pretty cool. So do we dive in? Let's dive into our themes. We're already way in. But those are the reflections so far. And I think it's been a very. I'm not the same, by the way. Like I feel every episode was different, was personal, and most of them are validation in terms of what we're doing, and also from the guys who've been listening to us and watching us. Amazing, because you all were. Some of the comments I was getting, and all of them, we take them from it's authentic. Thanks for having the honest conversation. Thanks for humanizing entrepreneurship, and that's what we will take.
Yeah.
Even in this reflection on a episode. So you want to jump in? Theme number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Purpose fuels resilience.
Yeah. Your reflections.
I feel that Kevin Mutiso's episode made me understand the breadth and depth that I can go in painting my own vision.
Yeah.
What kind of footprint do I want to leave on this earth?
Yeah.
And this earth includes me being a partner, a friend, a mother, a Kenyan, an African.
Yeah.
I have had a visioning session with myself because I know that I am here to contribute to Africa 2063. But I like that Kevin
Africa
had
2063.
Yeah. I like that Kevin had 2050.
2050, yeah.
And for him, everything that he's doing is centered around that.
Yeah.
And so when the storms come and the water rises, he has an anchor. And it's an anchor. It feels like a covenant that he's put up with himself. And it said, no matter what, I will show up as, and these different aspects. And so I started thinking about the different aspects that I show up in. And what value am I going to use? How am I going to transfer value if those are the aspects that matter to me?
Yeah.
And I think that's for him what he does. He's looked at his five components of purpose. And everything that he does in life has to reflect one or more of that.
Yeah. Moving society forward.
Mm-hmm.
Purpose fuels resilience. And I think it really does. I have met few individuals who are very clear on their purpose. I think on this past 7 episodes this past episodes was Peter Ndoati and also the other guests. I mean, from Wanjiru to they all seem to have purpose down. And I loved Kevin's, where he was very clear in terms of what he wants to be as a father, what he wants to be as a businessman, and what he wants to do in terms of moving society forward.
Yeah.
Peter's was also very interesting when he was talking about from purpose to significance.
Yes.
So he's in the self-actualization part of his life where it's just like, listen, I've built all these things. Now it's time for significance. And that was eye-opening in terms of the different stages everyone is in their journey. So I agree with you. Purpose does fuel resilience in business. And yeah, absolutely.
I remember Peter's episode where he said, and I remember even there was a point where we were like, Peter, this beginning that you keep talking about. Because he says when he's thinking of a business, when he's ideating, he's already ideating the board of directors and what archetypes these board of directors need to be in. Like, do they need to be African? They need to be African. Do they need to be Asian descent?
Yes.
Because there's a market that the person of Asian descent will probably open up to Peter.
Yeah.
And so something that's very clear, and I think we have said it in probably more than 4 episodes, is when we're ideating our businesses, we can't ideate small businesses. We must ideate global businesses with a global vision and with significance to move society forward.
Correct.
Kevin said this very clearly. He said, if you want to be $1 billion, if you want to trade in $1 billion value, then you have to find a problem. $1 billion, what was it? Find a problem or a problem that's already affecting a large proportion of society. And then solve that problem and find a way for that solution to move society forward. And that is how you become a $1 billion business.
Yeah, correct.
You have to be clear that I am trading in billions if I will be a $1 billion company.
Yeah.
Peter also said it when he was launching Resolution Health.
Correct.
He said in some town, building in town, and he said it was resolution,
like
health.
Charterhouse, East Africa.
And guys were like illusions of grandeur.
I remember that.
Yeah. And
yeah. Anyway, so moving society forward with Kevin. So I think Kevin really did say a lot. We move on to our next theme, because I can go on and on and on about Kevin.
I feel like I'm going to add one more for purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Wandia had purpose when she was crafting Vivo. And it was about Africans getting clothes that fit them.
Oh, yeah. Same to, what's her name? Wanjiru. Yeah. Like Africa must feed Africa.
Yes.
You had Wandia as well, which is basically, surely we must clothe ourselves.
Yeah.
X%, 50%. So that was some interesting themes coming through in terms of purpose. Yeah, we jump into the next one.
Yep. Theme 2.
Community is your safety net and growth catalyst. And I think, just talking to these guys as well, you can't exist in a vacuum. And I think all the way from us setting up this podcast to even most importantly, Peter, existing in a community. And I remember one of my stories came from, especially putting a community together to move this podcast, was I actually attended an event that I was invited for by somebody I worked with. And I entered the room and I saw a certain community, really wealthy community, in a room having meetings, and these are the who is who. And I was like, wait, these wealthy people are in a room helping each other, and they meet, and there's a whole structure in terms of how they meet and get to move each other forward.
Yeah.
I found that so interesting. It was like, you know what, we must build more of that.
Yes.
We must build communities to take us forward. And I remember, if loosely attributed to, for example, one day I went to Stanford Seed, a bit expensive for everyone, but you joined a community of, you went to educate yourself, but it's you're in a community. Then after you're done, you have an alumni, you're in a member of a community. So I think community is so important and cannot be underestimated. Same to Martin as well, who was in Stanford Seed.
Yes.
And all our other guests who were meeting, who are finding, whether it's incubators or fellow entrepreneurs, to actually sit around and sort of build their communities as well. I don't know what your reflections were.
One thing is clear, that the age we're in is an ecosystem-based age.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that even within business, we can't really exist. Nature abhors a vacuum.
It does.
And I do feel that sometimes we lock ourselves in a vacuum and just think, like, if I can just get this product without any outside influence, then if I just can craft it, and then when it's time to launch it, that's when the people will come. But a lot of the times is that you need the people to help you build the arc so that more can come in. And I find that even with Wanjiru, with Peter, with Kevin, COVID.
Yes,
COVID was a real pivot.
Yeah.
It was a marker.
For all of us, I don't think we are ever the same post-COVID. Yeah.
Majority of our entrepreneurs, of our guests actually spoke about how COVID did affect them and kind of rattled them. Some were pushed off completely and had to swim their way back.
Yeah.
I do think that community is what also helps you survive the uncertainties.
Yeah. I mean, look at Wanjiru.
Yeah.
Selling potatoes in her community because she's like, hey, people must eat.
Yes.
And trying to solve a problem, which was getting rid of potatoes because there are many. I'll sell them in my estate since we can't move. And a business idea is born. Which is her company, Wedge Heart Food. So yeah, you must tap into community, and even on a bigger scale. And I agree with you. One of the things I do struggle with is, I mean, community is great, and find yourself a community, mentors, etc. But you must actively seek them out because you don't know it all.
You do not know it all. We do not.
Yeah, and your community is fuel to a lot of things. They will provide you with knowledge, and within whatever community you're in or you want to build or you want to join, what you'll find is those things we're talking about: mentors, sponsors, people who actually help you get ahead. And so, yeah, we can't underestimate what community does to for entrepreneurs and business?
I also think sharing your problem is something very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sharing.
Something really happened. I don't know if I've told you this. Something happened a few weeks ago where we needed to go to the US. The team needed to go to the US for a really important meeting. But the US Embassy, to get an appointment, is how many? You probably get March 2025.
Yeah.
So we were at a friend's barbecue, and there were just several people from different organizations. And my colleague said, I really need a US visa, but I won't be able to make that meeting. And somebody just chimed in and said, you know what? There's a clause in these whole terms and conditions for visas that if you're advising, you're strategically advising a US organization, then you can get a visa in 4 days.
No way.
She went to the US.
Sharing your problem.
Sharing your problem.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And I know we've been surrounded by a lot of what we call them dream killers.
Yeah.
Vision stuffers.
Yeah.
But
dream killers, vision stuffers. Hey. Okay.
You have to share your story.
Oh yeah. The morbidity for if I share my idea or my vision, somebody's going to steal in. Oh yeah.
But it's the person who implements that actually gets to win. Absolutely. Because you cannot implement if you're not in the arena.
That's why the world's best ideas are in graveyards.
Yes.
The best innovations are in graveyards as well. But yes, absolutely. I think community. And we will continue to build that. And hopefully that's what we're building with Conversations and Plugs. And hopefully we can actually take it even further.
Yeah.
We can only dream and just see whether we can build our own community of entrepreneurs where we share resources, because that's what we want to do. Just share knowledge. Because I feel even addressing some of the systemic issues that we were talking about, when I look at some of our guests, a lot of them were punctuated by them seeking knowledge.
Yes.
Getting into places where they can actually find that knowledge and exchange ideas and exchange value. However, even in Africa, I can't help sometimes but feel our education system is rigged in such a way that it just feels just slightly below what it should be. Because the difference between moving a business from good to great is sometimes that knowledge.
It's that knowledge.
Yeah, and that education and where to find it as well.
Frameworks, models, functions.
And these are things that are absolutely available and democratic to all, but we find that a lot of businesses just, don't know where to find them, don't know how to access them. And hopefully we can actually help or just point guys the right way. We don't have it all. We don't have all the answers, and hopefully our community can help us build that as well.
Yes. We plan to build economies around these communities. Yeah. Because we do not need to go to somebody else's community if we're already providing value within ourselves. Yeah. And we've seen that it's not bias or anything. It's existing already in our country, in our countries in Africa. Yeah.
I like this other theme. Failure is part of the journey, not the end.
It's par for the course.
Par for the course.
Yeah. It's expected.
Mm-hmm.
Arm yourself. In the industry I work in, we have this thing called toolkits, right? And it's a list of competencies that, if used or leveraged properly, will give you a toolkit of how to navigate several problems. The problem can be different, but if you have the toolkit, then that means you are competent.
You're tooled.
Yeah. And I do feel like it is important to arm ourselves for failure. It is important to know that it is expected. And so what tools do I need to have in my toolkit in order for me to leverage and move forward? And I do think that it's a very tough topic.
Yeah.
But I do feel that Ted Josiah walked us through that.
Yeah.
I feel like Martin walked us through that. Because their stories were I felt like they were very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what was so funny about sorry, there was grief?
Yeah, there was a lot of grief.
There was grief, yes.
Yes.
And at the heart of them, I felt also was, for example, pivoting. You like using pivot a lot, which is basically all of them rebounded differently. Ted Josiah leaves music and decides to do something different, fueled by something very different. Whether it's failure, whether it's just like this, listen, this is not working for me. I'm tired. I'm tapped out and I want to pivot and do something else. Peter as well, the realization that, listen, COVID decimated my businesses. All of them required people to gather, and I'll do something different. But that's so interesting, because what you're seeing as failure to them was like, listen, I'm going to pick what I have and I'm going to put my energy elsewhere and just move it to where it needs to go. So
agility.
Yeah.
And I guess that's like the toolkit. Those are the things that probably are required in an entrepreneur's toolkit. Of how do we navigate how do we, you can't really codify resilient, but there's a way that you're able to leverage resources. If it's signposting, I love signposting around the internet. I don't have a solution I don't have capacity to absorb this body of knowledge right now, but can I remember where to get it when I do require that education? Peter calls it school fees.
School fees.
It's where you cut your teeth.
Your fees in an industry, learn.
Yes. And what I feel is the value of time, because failure sometimes is interpreted a lot, especially in my generation and below. I'm a millennial. I do feel like sometimes we feel like it takes too long.
Yes.
But wealth takes time, because wealth
things take time.
Is experience.
Good things take time.
Yeah. And I'm now looking at it and seeing that experience is sexy.
Yeah.
But the getting of the experience is not sexy at all.
Yeah. Failure. I find it very interesting. One of the things that, and especially, we don't claim to understand or I know entrepreneurs go through a lot. And I think that's what's usually put there in terms of people want to shy away from it because of the problems that comes with. And I remember during some of these episodes, one of the things I noticed amongst all our entrepreneurs was like just their willingness to just face the challenges. It's like, listen, Kerry have come.
Dirty.
Okay, let's deal.
Yeah.
COVID has come. Okay. It's tough. It sucks. But listen, let's just get in there and just do it. So I found that very interesting also. And especially when you talk about failure, and probably we need a new definition of failure, because I remember Martin's best quote around how failure is a privilege.
It's a privilege.
So that was interesting. Failure is a privilege. How privileged are you that you're in a position that you can actually fail? And maybe it's also just embracing and just reframing and just saying like, listen, it is failure. It's tough. It sucks. But it's not about...
It's not why me.
Yeah.
It's how might I?
Yeah.
How might I leverage this situation?
Yeah.
In obscurity, I feel like that's where Kevin's 5-point purpose came from.
Failure.
Yeah.
Or whichever you want to call it, failure, label it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just being grounded on the runway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kevin is a good example of losing everything when you're funded.
Even
down
Peter.
To your bare bones. And Peter too. Down to your bare auction.
Yeah.
And it's so funny how he reframes, and all of them reframe. They're like, okay, so now is this the worst that can happen? Okay, let's move. Let's build
Wanjiru shut down her business.
Correct.
It was 10 days.
Correct.
But those are people's livelihoods.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that was good.
No, that was failure is not the end. It's just a pivoting moment, or how you decide to.
It's a point of reflection, actually.
Yeah.
It's how a plane takes off the runway. When you watch a plane taking off the runway, it'll move. It's very slow. And sometimes in life, you just think, I am moving too slowly for the potential that I have in the skies.
Yeah.
But it goes and then it stops.
Yeah.
And then for a moment, it looks like this thing is not going to leave the ground.
Yeah.
And then it just takes off.
Correct. But you know what I like that analogy. And you know what else it does for me as well is in there, I think one thing that was interesting for me was that came to mind was courage. Because just listening to Peter talk about like, listen, that hey, Kere came, okay, big deal.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I got was this thing for just do it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? you're not getting out of here alive anyway. So you might as well just try it. And what I liked about that episode was Peter just gave me that confidence to just do. Like, close your spa. It's gone.
It's
next. Gone. COVID comes, COVID goes. Okay, next.
Close your airline. Do you remember he owned an airline at one point?
Make bad mistakes. Make bad mistakes. Invest in businesses that you haven't paid fees for.
Yes.
But learn and learn.
Yeah. I do think then community does come in failure.
No, it does. It does.
That's our tool.
Yeah. And I like this other one here. Adaptability is a key to staying relevant. Yeah.
Adaptability. When I think of that, I think of Ted Josiah.
Ted, yes, absolutely.
He's a man who has reinvented. I wouldn't say reinvent, because reinvent means that you kind of, I feel like he's evolved, because I feel like evolution uses the past learnings, Sinjatropus, Homo sapien.
Yeah. It's an evolution.
It's evolution. We're using this to make that.
And the species that does not evolve
will die.
Becomes extinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're out.
Yeah. And gone. I feel, what's so interesting about Ted? I think when we introduced his episode, we described him as a creative genius.
Yes.
And that's exactly what he's at the core of his being is creative. So whether it's in music or whether it's in Joka, in terms of what vision he has, and what I was really impressed by as well when you talk about community. And for me now, when we jump into the larger African continent, we have a huge community of people across the continent and globally. And I loved how Ted introduced one thing, the black market.
The black market. And it's BLAK, right?
Yes.
Market.
Yeah, the black market that he talks about in terms of, if we were to tap into the black market for our goods and services, that would be amazing. In terms of creating our own billionaires and things like that. And
it's 2% of 2 billion?
Yeah.
10% or 2% of 10 billion. Yeah.
It is a huge market. And a lot of people who are espousing that for me are probably Wanjiru, who's taken Vivo fashion brand and now she's opened her shops in Atlanta. So we must get her back here to just talk about that, which is amazing. I mean, you've transcended borders. And why? Because
why not, actually?
Why not? I have a problem. The clothes here don't make sense. Let me start something.
Yes.
And look at Vivo fashion.
Yeah. I do think, let me bring in evolution here.
Yeah.
It's very surprising when we've spoken to a lot of our guests. They're standing on the shoulders of the many people that came before them.
Yeah.
Wanjiru's father was an economist who did not a tomboya airlift.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a different kind of education system.
Yeah.
But when he came back with a clear goal that he's coming to transform trade.
Yeah.
And he really disliked mitumba clothes.
Correct.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I'm a mom of 2 daughters. And I'm now starting to think about the seeds that I plant in them that I probably will not watch when they're fruitful. I won't watch the full tree.
Yeah.
I'll never eat off the fruits of that tree.
Yeah.
But somewhere in heaven,
you'll never enjoy the shade of the tree.
I will never enjoy it. And I think it will be a privilege to do that, to never enjoy that.
Yeah.
Because that means that I have left them alive.
Yeah.
And I do feel that Wanjiru's grandfather was an agriculturalist.
Yes.
He could have been the Minister of Agriculture.
Yeah.
Her parents were agriculture extension officers.
Imagine that.
And she's selling what? She used to sell?
Yeah.
When you used to work with her?
Oh, merchandise. She
used to sell merchandise. She's selling merchandise. Her ancestors.
She was hustling, yes.
In agriculture.
Correct.
Sometimes people are just going through different things. And maybe they're being called to just come back and continue this trade.
And that's a very interesting theme, because one of the things I looked at, and I think we started seeing patterns, was the influence that your parents have on you. Peter, son of a butcher, started doing books when he was 14 years old. Butchery. Wanjiru, the father hated mutumba clothes.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And she's provided a solution for that. Wanjiru, same thing. So for me, it was pretty interesting in terms of some of the patterns we started seeing in terms of how inadvertently that you're shaped by your upbringing, the environment that you grew up in. So,
because we're really big on trauma right now. And sometimes it's also positive trauma.
Yeah.
It's the fact that
Evolution.
you probably went through enough stuff when you're growing up for you to be resilient.
Correct.
When others are falling, you're wondering why I'm still standing.
Yeah.
So our past there's good and bad. And sometimes it's very important. I remember after when we started seeing this trend, I went back into when I was journaling and just started looking at what's around me. What did I grow up around? That I'm just like, meh. But what if that's the gem that takes me to the next level that I leverage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we put out a clip on TikTok for one day.
Yeah.
And one of the things she was talking about is generational trauma and how she likes to see generational trauma, which is, I know we're still talking about evolution, how she chooses to see generational trauma differently, right? And what she was saying is she likes to see it as you take also the wisdom,
yes,
and the knowledge from that generation. However, I think some of the stuff I started seeing on TikTok was guys were just like, listen, generational trauma is crazy wicked. Not only do you take wisdom as well, you also have the demons from that generational trauma. And yeah, very interesting takes there around how people evolve. But I think overall is we all choose our journeys. We must work on ourselves, and we must choose whatever path we need to choose, because we bring all of those things to the table.
All of our people are here with us. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And was it Toni Morrison who I had say, or was it Maya Angelou who says the same thing, that you are the sum of your ancestors, everyone who went before you, and you came that way, the good, the bad.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes it can really screw us up as individuals. And we have a lot to work through, and we see it. And isn't it funny? Let me ask you a question, because I think one of the things I have observed as well is a lot of I have seen businesses where the businesses are the owners, and that's what usually happens, isn't it?
Yes.
So you're not two different individuals. You're the same person.
Yes.
So if you're nasty out there, you'll be nasty in your business, and it's the same personality.
And that culture will translate.
Absolutely. And you haven't dealt with that stuff, it comes. So I think probably those are some of the things that people need to work around and just be aware, because you're never two different individuals. You are who you are. You can't be different at work and different at home. Ultimately, at the core essence of this, you can wear a mask all you want, but you're the same person. You will bring your trauma. You will bring all those things to your business and to who you are. And so, you've got to keep working to address them.
Healing is beautiful. And it's still, healing feels like entrepreneurship. You have to get in. You have to get in and figure out that healing.
Jump into the arena.
Inside the arena. You can't heal from afar.
No, you cannot.
Yeah.
The next theme that I really liked was around innovation, personal growth, and social impact.
Continuing with personal, what we're talking about, healing.
Yeah.
Martin's story, so let me tell you, Martin was the first episode we shot.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
So we had a lot of audience. We had the entire team with us.
It was our first episode. Yes. And we were all excited and we're like, oh man.
So Martin comes, he has the best energy.
Yeah.
And then we go in.
We didn't realize he was doing push-ups.
Yeah.
Ready to shock us.
So he says, he starts talking. He says, suicide, I don't know. He just starts telling his story.
Yeah.
We could feel the air leave the room.
Correct.
And we're like, do we stop recording?
Yeah. I remember guys were asking, like, do we hug Martin? Because he just drops truth bombs and vulnerability moments. And that was incredible.
If you don't do the work will do you.
Oh yeah.
Because Martin is a representation of what doing the work looks like and how it evolves even to your business.
Yeah. And you're a work in progress every day.
Yes.
Yeah. And even that trauma we were talking about, now I don't know how the analogy goes, but it goes something like this in my head. It is like that thing that you haven't dealt with is like a hurricane. And there's a bull, there's a buffalo, and there's a cow.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Cows run away from the hurricane.
Yes.
Buffaloes run into the hurricane because they know, like, listen, I'll use all my energy, pass through this, and I'll quickly get over to the other side. What do cows do? They run so fast, and then the hurricane catches up. And because you have no energy, you will be hard.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with trauma. And that's the same thing around not doing the work. And then vulnerability was a big thing that I saw amongst all our entrepreneurs. They're pretty vulnerable, willing to share, and it's so funny that, not funny, actually, it was pretty admirable how they're willing to help anyone.
Yeah.
And one of the things that stood out for me is just how generous they are with their time.
Because we only recorded 1 hour, we did not spend 1 hour with everyone. It used to continue 4 hours.
Yeah.
The parking lot, we're still being schooled.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think what people don't see is we actually meet all our guests before they come on, and we leave a lot of things out because there's so much to say, and they have so much wisdom, and there's things, even for legal reasons, that we couldn't bring on. And I know guys had questions, and we must have some of our guests back to sort of talk around those things. But we take our time, and some of the stuff that we talked about were amazing, and we will share that in our community even as we proceed.
Let me plug this though, that Cliff and I and the team are writing, and so more of these stories will come out in articles,
our LinkedIn pages, most importantly on our website. So conversationsandplugs.com. So just get on there. We're still trying to figure out what that will be. So journey with us, even as we try and figure this out. We don't have everything figured out. But perhaps one of my favorite sayings is it Aristotle, who says, "I'm the wisest man in the world." You know why?
Why?
Because I know nothing. Right? So we know nothing. We're just sharing our experiences, our opinions, and we are more than happy to hear what you guys have to say around all.
Spotlighters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just let us know what you guys think and what themes actually stood out for you guys. Anything else, Wangu, apart from Martin's heart-stopping, like, hey, I tried to commit suicide because of XYZ, and that was quite a journey for me, I think, for all of us. And we were like, yo, this is episode 1. This is going to be lit.
You have taken us. He took us. He left. He even asked us. He asked us, guys, are you sure you want to do this? And then I was like, yeah. Just talk. We're here.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It was amazing.
What stood out for me is that none of our guests doing business just to do business. There's impact attached to that business.
Yeah.
And I think then that casts a wider net.
Yeah. That's Peter's quote when asking guys, why do you want to get into business? I want to make money.
Yes.
Still, that's really the funniest highlight of the season, because that's true. A lot of us want to make money because it is, isn't it?
Yeah. We've also seen the models of entrepreneurs in our space. And sometimes it's just, money is beautiful. Money is amazing, but money is a tool. And you'll get the figure, but you haven't, what happens after?
Yeah, then it just becomes empty.
Yeah, because so you want a private jet.
Okay, then after you get
so where are we going with this private? Okay, you've gotten it. What do you want to do with it?
Yeah. Then guys will argue, but you don't have it yet. So anyway, we can go on and on and on. I think purpose is important. And another thing that stood out for me was wisdom and knowledge. That these guys had really paid their fees, right? And I say that analogy, I think, was used by Peter a lot. Learn the business, learn what you're in. For example, when you say different models of entrepreneurs, I agree with you, because, I mean, if you look at how Peter has looked at his value chain in terms of the businesses that he's in, he went into distributorship. It's like, listen, I've got to have an agnostic business that does not necessarily, not distributorship, but he started investing in businesses that do not require people to gather.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he was in sports. You can't shoot sports anymore in COVID, right? He was in events. No more people are not gathering.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And then he started building his distributorship business where people must drink. So he's not in charge of the drink. No, I'll just help you get your product to market. And that's all I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
All the way to Kevin, who's trying to figure out a new way of doing business, or a different business model. I don't know what else stood out for you. But Kevin's model I found interesting in terms of the value chain that he was trying to create or trying to tap into, which is a very different model and people might not understand. But know your business.
Know your business.
Know what business you're in. Look within your value chain. Where do you want? Where exactly are you? Are you at the bottom of the barrel, just making the least amount of money at the other people who are? Are you going to build those adjacencies? Wanjiru Mambos was interesting for me as well, in terms of value addition, which is one of your.
Value addition is it for me.
Yeah.
I don't understand how we export tea in the raw form.
Correct.
And then bring it back packaged
tea,
at a
coffee,
premium. Sun-dried tomatoes drives me crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because my mom went into tomato farming and there was just no value addition.
Yeah.
She would throw so much produce that it was crazy. Yet you look at a little tin in the supermarket from Italy, it just doesn't seem fair. And I feel like sometimes somebody once said that, how Kenyans drive just reflects society. And on the roads, you meet all kinds of, the highest person to the lowest person, you'll all meet on the road.
Yeah.
I do feel that our
and you
traits,
all have the same road rage.
Yeah. Our trade
behavior.
system is a reflection of even how our society works.
Absolutely.
Or how the powers that be have placed Africa, that we are to just produce and make things leave the continent.
Yeah.
Ted Josiah talked about
leather.
Yeah. And the fact that we will export leather to Nigeria.
To be eaten as a delicacy.
Yes.
And people beating their cows.
Yeah.
Which lowers the value of leather.
Of that. But they don't understand that because there's still no feedback loop.
Yeah.
In regards to innovation, I do feel that innovation is in getting the basics right. And that allows you to run your business. People don't run businesses. Processes run businesses.
Yeah.
And getting that process right also gives you room to understand the places that you could inject innovation.
Yeah.
I do feel Wanjiru's story of value addition is, and also value creation, because what you have is a potato, but she has moved 2 or 3 times. Her machines are getting better because her
sourcing is getting better from where she gets her potatoes across the country.
Yeah. But she's been able to completely close the loop.
Yeah.
Take the feedback back to the farmers.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what Ted is trying to do again with his leather.
Yeah.
But it's funny how when Wanjiru just cuts up a potato, increases its value by almost 200-300%, Ted makes a bag in Kenya and tries to export it to Europe, and the margins are insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it wasn't lost on us in terms of, I think sometimes Africa, in as much as it's beautiful and all these fantastic narratives around all the resources that we do have and all the promise and the young bulging population, but all that will go to waste if we do not harness those things in an intentional way, and especially around policy.
Yeah,
I think sometimes we're self-sabotaging in terms of leadership. I think those are some of the things in terms of us participating in those policy making as well. And I think one of the things I remember hearing from Kevin and Peter is you must participate.
You must.
Because if you're not on the table,
you're on the menu.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we must participate and have those conversations around policy making, just to make sure that our voices are heard, and that the political class and the ruling class are making laws that are equitable.
Across the board.
Yeah. And that are fair and that are enabling people to actually thrive.
Yeah.
And that's where we are, as opposed to stifling growth, which, because you don't want to make your people slaves.
No.
We must pay taxes, absolutely. But you don't want to make your people slaves. You want to make sure that you're giving people conducive environments to be creative, to be innovative.
Ted Josiah did say that. He said, I don't want your aid. I just want an
level playing field.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And let me earn my own on this level playing field.
And the more we dive into this, the more I can't help but just feel like systematically, like you just taste it, it becomes even more tangible.
Yeah.
And the more you read about it, the more you hear about it, the censorship, but that's why
democratization.
Yeah, I'm like, then let's find our own solutions. Like, why are we looking out? right? Let's do what we must do, and it will take a lot of political will. It will take a lot of conversations like this around business and making sure that we have a good level playing field, that we are pushing people to make the right decisions. But we must participate. We can't just be food on the menu, and we must challenge the status quo and the powers that be. That, come on, there's more at play here. There's generations coming after us, and we must tell stories of people who look like us, doing things that are extraordinary. And that's why I can't wait for our guests who come from across the African continent, entrepreneurs who are doing things from different countries, South Africa, Ethiopia, Ghana, Congo. So we can't wait to feature people so that we can just see ourselves, understand business models.
I'd love to hear about, for example, value addition in the Congo.
Absolutely.
Because that's a region that has been depleted. And what does value addition look like right now in Congo, and what's happening on the ground? I would like to know what the Francophone market space looks like and feels like, you know. I feel that Africa has been fragmented for too long, and it's time for us to just unify. It's time for us to unify beyond this Google Translate, guys. We will work it out. But what is clear is that we are the solutions to our own issues.
We must.
Yeah.
We must. And
Martin talked about this story of this funder that comes to a rural village in Kenya and says, you guys don't have water, I'll build you guys boreholes closer to your village.
Yes.
Come back, monitoring and valuations, 3 years later, the ladies are not using the water because what they knew that the long trips away from the village was therapy. That's when we can go and vent about our homes. But I had another addition to that story.
Yeah.
Also, why it stopped was that the women were getting too many children because their partners were seeing them often around the home, and they're like, listen, why don't we continue?
So guys were measuring the wrong indicators.
Yes.
Okay.
And so what I know is that positioning is something that's very critical.
Correct.
And explaining positioning is you don't walk into a problem and start to think that, oh, just do it this way, X, Y, and Z. And there are people already in the industry who already know how things run.
Absolutely.
So position yourself means market fit, product market fit. It means doing mapping and understanding your customer, understanding your business, and fully personalizing your business. What does your business look like? How does it eat? How does it serve people? Eat in terms of resources and everything. So I just feel like we're onto something, Cliff.
I think so too.
There's a wealth of information here,
and we'll aggregate it.
Yes.
We'll write it up for guys. All the concepts that we've discussed here, we're looking to just sort of curate that for the community. Please share sources.
Tell us what you want to hear about. Who do you want us to
be our plugs. Plug Nation.
Plug us.
Just tell us what you guys are thinking. Sharing resources. We will put up. Our vision and our dream is to put up some sort of resources for everyone where you can actually just come and just pick up some of the concepts we've talked about. What is a process? How do you set up a process for a business? And hopefully build a community around it. What is a business model? How do you evaluate it? What does it look like? What does it taste it?
Agribusiness like?
What's
value addition?
What's value addition? What is a value chain?
Yes.
How do you
supply chain?
How do you determine what your value chain is? And how do you know? What are smile curves and all those fantastic jargons? And so we're hoping to share the knowledge based from what we know and also crowdsource that as well, so that we can share with the community, so that we all have a repository of where we can actually find these things around business models and get help where we need, and then build other things. We are still in the visioning stage, so join us in our community and let us see how this journey evolves and how we move.
But what we're clear is that we're staying on course.
Yes.
And we're continuing to spotlight African business stories.
Yeah.
And we're watching them come to life.
Absolutely.
Through you.
Yeah.
Through the guests that we host.
Yeah. And we hope to bring our guests back as well. So if you have any questions for any of them or whichever guests you guys want us to bring back, we will bring them back. But we do have plans on just coming and just talking about other things, because we felt an hour was was short.
Yeah.
Because every time we were just about to get into like deepen the conversation, the 1 hour was off. So we will keep bringing them back to discuss different things. So yeah, be on the lookout for that, and give us your suggestions, your comments. And then let's see how we move this community along. But we're pretty excited for what comes next. We'll keep going. We'll keep learning. We'll keep staying hungry, staying foolish. We know nothing. So a lot of these things are our own opinions based on our experiences and what we've learned. But yeah, stay sharp. Join us.
Yeah.
Keep subscribing.
Share.
Tell a friend, and then we will see how to engage you guys. Hopefully we will have a live recording at some point.
Yes.
We will have a couple of events with our entrepreneurs, and I hope you guys can come along so that we can all learn, we can all share, we can all plug each other into our businesses. But yeah, don't go at it alone. Join a community. So join our community. So can't wait for that.
Yeah. And until then, keep believing in your purpose and stay connected.
Stay connected.
Yeah.
Over and out.